Welcome to In Focus on this Sunday, May 18th, 2025. I'm Cheryl Wills. For the next month, we're changing our format and turning our attention to the upcoming election. As you probably know, the primary is on June 24th. Early voting begins June 14th. We're inviting political candidates to discuss a range of issues that matter to New Yorkers, from affordability to public safety. And to ensure a fair exchange of ideas, we're addressing the same key issues with each candidate. Our guests on this Sunday, 3 Democrats on the mayoral ballot: Scott Stringer, Michael Blake, and Whitney Tilson. Their pitch to voters happening now on In Focus. Let's begin today's conversation with Scott Stringer, Democrat, running for mayor. Mr. Stringer, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, I'm glad you're here. So we'd like to begin with, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing New Yorkers right now?
Look, we want to make sure that everyday New Yorkers can afford to live in the city and thrive in the city. We want to be a city that families can stay for years and years and years and enjoy the incredible cultural diversity of the city, the incredible center of the universe feeling that we've always had. And as a lifelong New Yorker, I could tell you that it's getting harder and harder to love this place because the government is not being responsive to the people. So we have an affordable housing crisis. We have a crisis in education. We need a mayor who's going to stop the corruption. And I think we need somebody who brings experience, competence, and vision to this mayoralty in the next few weeks.
Well, you touched on affordability there, so let's continue with that. You created a housing plan that tackles both affordability and access. Give us a sense of what you mean when you say the city housing system is broken, and what would you do about it?
Well, we've become a government, when it comes to housing, we think in the most minimalistic way. We produce affordable housing. People know that there's no big housing program that's going to keep people in the city. So my plan, and it started when I was city controller, when I looked at 1,000 vacant city-owned properties, why can't we use those vacant parcels of land to build the next generation of affordable housing, to build what I call Mitchell-Lama 2.0, basically after the Mitchell-Lama housing program that was so successful a generation ago. You know, mayors always did big things when it came to housing. LaGuardia built 2,200 public housing units. Mitchell-Lama was built with Wagner and Lindsay. Ed Koch basically rebuilt the Bronx. And now what do we have today? We have very minimalistic hope and dreams for affordable housing. So I want to get us back into the housing business. I want to see this city thrive for working people. People come to the city, we got to keep them here. They come to our universities, but then they leave because the rent's too high. And the second kid definitely pushes you out of the city. So I want to put my experience into action. I understand how to finance housing. I did that as controller. I understand what it's like to work on land use and zoning issues because I did that as Manhattan Borough President successfully. And I think we need a mayor who is going to build a government that speaks to capacity. And that's why I decided to run again, because I think we need somebody who can actually do the work. It's easy to talk about it. It's a lot harder to accomplish it, as we've seen with the last few mayors.
Let's touch on public safety. You have said everything else is secondary until we get public safety and quality of life right. What's your plan to address it?
Couple of things. First, we need to understand that we have to deploy more police officers, especially underground on our trains. But that's not enough. We also have to envision a true mental health program that's going to take the most vulnerable people, many living on the streets and below ground in the subways, and get them the mental health help they really need. Eric Adams talked about that in the last campaign, but nothing happened. So I want to hire 3,000 more cops. That will reduce overtime from $1.3 billion back to $650 million. I want to use that extra money to invest in the greatest mental health initiative the city has ever seen. And then we got to make more civilian use of, the auxiliaries and others that can do the desk jobs while we put more police officers in the street. But also, we have technology, a component for technology. There's a whole way that we can approach safety in the streets. But then We have to break down the silos of our other city agencies. I'm going to have a deputy mayor for quality of life because potholes, garbage, rats walking upright, and they do walk upright because they fear nobody. We need to have a city government that's going to be able to measure whether we can solve some of the problems that make New Yorkers just totally insane with the lack of quality of life in the city. So I want to do that.
You mentioned agencies. Let's talk about federal funding, which is a major issue right now for local agencies and nonprofits. They're being devastated by these budget cuts. Many New Yorkers are feeling it, especially the arts community. If elected mayor, what would you do to fill the gap?
Well, first of all, my plan right now is very simple. We have got to get our city to the congressional midterms when we elect Hakeem Jeffries Speaker and start to dismantle this attack from Trump on New York City. It is serious, it is real, it is worse than it was when Trump won. I was through Trump won, and I think right now we need to set aside $1 billion, $500 million from the state, $500 million from the city, so that when they take our money from our budget codes, federal dollars, we can replace that money so that we don't collapse our safety net before the congressional elections. This is very critical. I think we have to work with the banks in an early warning system because they are going to try to enter this city in different ways, whether it's picking off immigrants from the streets or taking away our federal funding. We need a mayor who has tremendous financial experience and government experience to actually meet this challenge. I think I'm ready to do that. I fought him in Trump 1. I know how to beat him in Trump 2. But the most important issue that we have right now is making sure we hold on to our safety net.
Yeah, and let's talk about that safety net. It has a lot of holes in it, and a lot of people are falling through due to these budget cuts. If Medicaid cuts go through, this is going to be disastrous for New York City.
It is very serious. Look, we saw when Andrew Cuomo cut Medicaid by $2.5 billion, right, when he was governor, how devastating that was and how problematic it was for New York City. We don't want to relive this now with a Trump administration. So again, we have to do everything we can to use our legal powers, use our strategy. We can't play checkers with the federal government now. We got to play chess. We got to know what we're doing. But we also have to have a short-term and long-term game plan. The short-term game plan is getting us to the congressional elections, and that's where the rubber's going to meet the road.
And this is how I'm going to end every conversation. What's your final pitch to voters?
Look, I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I love the city. I've got skin in this game that I never thought I would have. 2 wonderful middle school, public school kids. I want this city to be for them what it was for me, just the greatest place in the world to grow up. You know, we had our issues back in the day, as you know, but there was something about this city that was just magical, and it is today. I think we're one good election away from having a mayor who knows how to govern, knows how to run this city. This is not a time for a mayoralty on training wheels. It is about somebody who has a real vision for the city. I can build affordable housing. I'm going to make sure that we elevate the education system for all children, a real mental health initiative in the schools, a real opportunity to talk about seniors and the issues that they need to be helped with, and also to make sure that we have a mayor who is going to think big again about this city. Those are the great mayors that we love, the ones who said this can be done. As controller, I divested from fossil fuels, divested from private prisons, divested from gun manufacturers. Everyone said I couldn't do any of this. It was impossible. But I built the administration as controller like none other. I can do the same as mayor, and that's my pitch.
Scott Stringer, Democratic mayoral candidate, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cheryl.
In Focus continues after this quick break. Thanks for staying with us as we continue our discussion with political candidates. Joining us now is Democrat Michael Blake. He's running for mayor. Mr. Blake, thanks for being here.
Had to be with you, Cheryl. You know, at the end of the day, let's go Knicks.
Let's go Knicks indeed. So I just want to remind our viewers that we're addressing the same key issues with each candidate. And Mr. Blake, I want to start with you the same way I started with Mr. Stringer. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing New Yorkers right now?
Simply too expensive in New York City. Affordability is everything. And I have said very clearly that our big idea is that we have to end credit scores for rent and home ownership applications, because that's going to allow people to have an opportunity to have affordable homes. We need to focus on local median income because area median income is not working for too many of us. And we got to make sure that there's public safety. At the end of the day, you have to be able to walk home, get home safe and secure. And in order to do that, that means that our police have to have increased foot patrol with body cameras on, but then mental health professionals actually addressing what's happening. So affordability and safety, while at the same time, yes, we fight Donald Trump. And achieving all three is what New Yorkers wants to know.
And let's touch on affordability. You created a housing plan that's, quote, rooted in dignity. That's how your campaign puts it. Explain how it works.
First and foremost, when we think about the two fundamental expenses that New Yorkers have, it is housing and childcare. And overwhelmingly, what is happening right now is that people are wondering, do I have to be rich or just poor enough to have access to a home? And it's wrong. And so the way that we address this is being very specific. Again, the big idea that we have, end credit scores for rent home ownership applications. We're already doing that when it comes to HPD homes. Why not do that for others? The reason why that's relevant is we can attract and see very clearly what is happening in terms of your payment and your rental payments. So let's stop blocking people from that opportunity. Second, we have to increase income thresholds and limits because right now you essentially have to be rich or just barely getting by to have access to homes. What happens for those that are in the middle class? It's wrong for them. Third, we got to have a Mitchell-Lama 2.0, in which we're being very intentional what's happening for the middle class, while at the same time we protect those that are living in NYCHA. And then equally be sure to say that we're not going to have incentives just for developers and landlords, but incentives for people to actually be able to keep their home. That's our vision of Welcome Home. It's our entire website at blakefornyc.com to demonstrate for someone whose family overcame homelessness, I want to make sure everyone can keep their home.
Yeah, and you also touched on public safety. Explain how your Project 2026 protects New Yorkers from crime.
Everybody needs to be safe. Everyone needs to be able to have access to get to a home and get home, whether it be a citizen and or a cop. And so we're very clear that you have to dedicate your resources into specific neighborhoods that have the highest incidence, address what's happening around the economic injustice in the first place so that you don't have someone that's robbing and stealing, address the mental health concerns that are happening in our communities, which overwhelmingly, if we have greater focus on overdose prevention centers and opioid settlement funds so that you don't have people inside and outside of your subways, as well as, creating impact on your small businesses, that is how you could increase what's happening in public safety. Cheryl, we had a terrible tragedy in our neighborhood where a 16-year-old lost her life because of a stray bullet, which is another reminder why we have to get guns off our street so that the young kids actually focus on graduating and not shooting. And so simultaneous to that, yes, we need to close Rikers, but we have to make sure that there's borough-based jails that are opening to hold people accountable. So yes, address what's happening around speedy trial and discovery. Yes, address what's happening so that repeat offenders are not back on our street, but take those steps to be serious about this, because then we can actually have more officers who are returning back onto the force with greater accountability. We're addressing the mental health concerns around public safety and actually ensuring that everyone is able to get home safe and alive.
You mentioned borough-based jails. As you know, City Hall is not on track to open those borough-based jails on time. What would you do differently?
Well, I would actually lead and manage the city unless Eric Adams will actually get out the way. We see that right now. It's the reason why the federal government has said they have to have a takeover on Rikers. Rikers, Cheryl, is the second largest mental health facility in the country, only followed by what's happening at LA County Jail. And so it's our responsibility to be very clear and intentional that for us to actually give people the chance for safety, accountability. The overwhelming number at Rikers have actually not been convicted. They're just awaiting trial. So why not have diversions and alternatives to incarceration so that individuals actually have a chance to wait safe and secure as they're waiting trial, so that then you not only reduce the prison population, you're then able to have greater accountability on the correctional officers as well as those that are incarcerated there, so that then you're addressing the repeat offenders, you're addressing the mental health concerns, and you're addressing making sure that the serious offenders are actually being held accountable. You take those steps and then focus on making sure that boroughs-based jails are connected to courthouses. That is how you can actually show New Yorkers that you're serious. And Cheryl is the only person in this race who has White House, State House, and local experience, who has managed at all levels. The only person in this race who's actually defeated Donald Trump when I was vice chair of the DNC. New Yorkers need to know that you have someone that's serious around public safety. And the person that is willing and serious to do that is myself and Michael Blake.
And lastly, what's your final pitch to New Yorkers as we approach early voting?
Well, first, you should make sure to follow the handsome Jamaican who's a Knicks fan out here that wants to get people mobilized. We want people to have joy in what's happening, and we want that positive energy. Look, you want to focus on affordability. I'm going to help you keep more money in your pocket through local median income instead of area median income, through ending credit scores for rent homeownership applications. You want to help your children to go to school and graduate. Well, let's make sure there's civics, financial literacy, and mental health before every student graduates. We want to change the game when it comes to childcare and having universal childcare, not just after schools, but throughout the weekend. You want to focus on ensuring we have true public safety. We can have that as well. So again, if you're looking for the person that is ready to manage and lead today, who can actually give us a new vision, my name is Michael Blake, and we're saying tomorrow begins today. And join us at BlakeForNYC.com.
Okay, Michael Blake, Democratic mayoral candidate. Thanks for your time. In Focus continues right after this. Thanks for staying with us as we talk with political candidates on the primary election ballot. Joining us now is Whitney Tilson, Democratic mayoral candidate. And we just want to remind our viewers that we're addressing the same key issues with each candidate. Mr. Tilson, thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Cheryl. Thanks for having me.
And I want to start like I did with the other candidates. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing New Yorkers right now?
Well, affordability is the top of everyone's list. I hear it in every corner of the city. We've have a 1.4% vacancy rate. We have the highest rents in the country. And unlike the rest of the country where they're going down, they're still going up because we've made it almost impossible to build new housing to maintain our existing housing stock. So in many ways, this is a self-inflicted problem.
Yeah, and you've said that housing is crushing all but the richest New Yorkers. If elected, how would you address the housing crisis?
Yeah, well, I differ from most of the other candidates in that I have a business background, and I understand that it has to be led by the private sector, but catalyzed by the government. New York should be the most attractive place for anyone to want to invest, given our high rents, low vacancy rates, et cetera. But the housing developers I talk to say, I consistently hear, quote, they treat us like the enemy. The zoning regulations are just the starting point, the whole regulatory process. It's worse than any other city in the country, and we've just made it almost impossible and driven them away, and hence we have this housing crisis.
Let's pivot to public safety.
Sure.
You have outlined a plan to cut crime here in the city by 50%.
Yeah.
Explain how you would do that.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased to say we're actually already on our way. I made that pledge when I entered the race back in November. We should all be grateful in New York that murders are down 28% year to date, excuse me. And most other major crimes are down. Mayor Adams was finally forced to hire a great police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, who I will ask to stay on board. She's cleaning out the cronyism and corruption at the top, getting more beat cops out there. We're at a 34-year low in the number of police officers. We've got to build back their ranks, and starting by improving morale and start enforcing the quality of life crimes that are affecting all New Yorkers.
Let's talk about federal funding. It's a major issue right now. Budgets are being cut, especially for nonprofits and agencies. Many New Yorkers are really feeling it. If elected mayor, what would you do to fill the gap?
Yeah, well, we're the richest city in the world. We have the highest tax rate in the country. So that translates into an enormous $115 billion city budget. We've got to tighten our belt and manage that better. I'm a business person. That's my background. I'm not a career politician, so I'm running in a very different lane than the other candidates in the Democratic primary. I know bad management when I see it, and that's one of the reasons I entered the race, is I think we can manage that enormous budget better, find savings, bring in business-oriented people who know how to run things more efficiently, because we have to factor in loss of federal funding in a number of different areas. I hope it doesn't happen. I will fight to maintain it, but we should be preparing for a rainy day. And I think we can squeeze many billions of dollars out of that budget and invest it in areas where we need it. Extra tutoring in the schools, help for the mentally ill homeless, areas that are critical to address.
You've said you're not a career politician. You're an author, right, and a businessman.
Primarily a business person. Do some writing on the side.
You do some writing on the side. So do you feel not being a career politician is an advantage?
Yes. When I look at how badly the city is being run and how much we pay for almost everything, far more than any other city, from building a mile of subway to building a bathroom in the park to building 1 unit of affordable housing, it's often multiples of what other large cities pay. I think it's a structural problem, which is we have an off-year election that's very low turnout. It's structured in a way that only 26% of eligible registered Democrats voted last time, which means a small number of special interests basically elect the politicians who are then supposed to negotiate with them. I think to fix this problem, you need an outsider, someone who really doesn't need the job and who isn't just looking at this as a stepping stone to a higher office. And I'd argue I'm the only candidate in the field who fits that description.
Well, the early voting will begin before you know it next month. So what is your final pitch to New Yorkers before they head to the polls?
Sure. Well, if you love this city, think it's headed in the wrong direction, and are fed up with how the career politicians have been running it, I would argue I'm the only change candidate in the race, and I'm going to clean up widespread corruption and manage this city a lot better.
Whitney Tilson, Democratic mayoral candidate, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And a quick programming note. This time next week, we will invite more mayoral candidates to discuss issues that New Yorkers are talking about ahead of the primary election. Thanks so much for watching In Focus. I'm Cheryl Wills. We appreciate you spending your Sunday with us. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. To keep up with the important issues impacting our communities and hear more conversations with the people who are shaping the future, subscribe to our channel. You can also download our app or find Spectrum News on your TV for balanced, in-depth political coverage and more. We'll see you there.